You know how sometimes you want to really get into something, get those aha moments that actually stick, but without feeling like you're, well, slogging through a textbook.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we try to do here at the Deep Dive. We grab some sources, dig in, and pull out the really interesting bits, the stuff that, makes you think.
It's about getting to the core of it,
All
right?
right.
But like quickly and properly, maybe with a few surprises thrown in.
Definitely. And today, we're diving into something pretty cool. TATANKA's AI Gen Rhapsody in Blue-Green, a day-long symphony of jazz, nature, and city dreams. We've got their webpage here, which has the album, obviously, but also this whole narrative woven around it, which looks fascinating.
Yeah, it's quite a package.
And straight away, that AI Gen in the title jumps out. Can you maybe just touch on what that means, what role AI might be playing here?
Sure, yeah, good question to get out of the way. So AI Gen basically tells us that artificial intelligence was used in generating some parts of the music.
It's generating, like
Yeah.
writing it.
It could be helping with writing, yeah, or arranging, maybe creating certain sounds or textures. It's kind of this growing area, humans and AI working together creatively.
Interesting. Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how this whole thing works. The mix of jazz, classical, nature sounds, city vibes, and that story element.
Right, what makes it more than just, an album?
Exactly. So let's jump into this main idea. The connection between nature and the city in this piece. It's not the usual, conflict setup, is it?
No, not at all. That's what's quite striking. It deliberately avoids that kind of opposition.
Yeah.
Instead, it pictures them as deeply connected, influencing each other constantly.
Like-
The music itself really seems to capture that blending.
How so? Can you give us some examples from the text they provided? How does the music actually do that?
Well, take the first movement, Prelude, Mist and Marble.
Mhm.
It sets the scene at dawn in the city, right? But it's often kind of made organic by this feeling of mist.
Ah,
And there's this line about wrought iron benches glistening like flora, like flowers. It visually merges the man-made and the natural right there.
yeah, I see that. Like the hard city edges are being softened by nature's rhythm.
Exactly that. And then, as the day goes on, the music starts reflecting what the text calls civic choreography.
Civic choreography.
Yeah, like the everyday movements, people walking, dogs, bikes. It all becomes part of the soundscape, woven in with the park sounds.
So it's not just background noise, it's treated as musical.
Right. It's interpreting these shared spaces, how we move through them together.
And then there's the Grand Bloom. That title alone suggests something really positive happening in that shared space.
Totally. The text calls the park a sanctuary of coexistence there. And musically, you get this interplay between the jazz piano and the orchestra that highlights people enjoying nature in the city, business people on breaks, artists sketching. It's celebrating human presence within the green.
It's interesting, isn't it, how the music seems to achieve this kind of integration that city planners often aim for, but maybe don't always nail.
That's a really sharp observation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by evening, this blending seems to get even stronger.
In Reflections at Dusk and Twilight Reverie.
Exactly. The lines really blur. The piano is called the city's heartbeat, the strings its breath. That's quite an image.
Wow, yeah. Heartbeat and breath. So it's not just making nice music, it's suggesting something more profound, this poetic model for urban sustainability the text talks about. What hits you most about that idea?
For me, it's the idea that we can actually feel a soulful connection to our cities if we see how they're linked to nature. The music isn't just showing it, it's offering a way to feel it, maybe, to experience the city as a kind of living thing.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the emotional side of things. Rhapsody in Blue-Green takes you on a journey, right? Since it's instrumental, how does it build this emotional architecture they mention?
Yeah, that's a great phrase. It really comes down to the conversation between the piano and the orchestra. They guide you through this whole range of feelings.
Okay.
Like Don's Embrace, at the start, it immediately gives you this sense of gentle optimism, like a quiet promise.
Yeah, that feeling of possibility hanging in the air.
Exactly. Then you get movements like Symphony and Timeless, which feel much bigger, more romantic, almost grand. The text mentions creating an emotional cathedral for the listener.
An emotional cathedral.
Wow. Yeah, it's about those soaring melodies, the harmonies that give you that sense of awe, maybe connection.
And the jazz element, that must bring in the spontaneity, the rawness.
Oh, absolutely. Jazz is so rooted in expressing emotion, right? It lets the music capture all the little nuances, the complex feelings. Think about yearning beneath the light. It's got those subtle bluesy moments, that sense of longing. It gets into the more vulnerable, inward-looking stuff.
And the fact there are no lyrics. That must really open it up for personal interpretation.
That's key, yeah. Without words telling you exactly what to feel, you become the one filling in the blanks, mapping your own experiences onto it. The music's like a canvas. And the ending is interesting too, isn't it? Just solo pianist in a gazebo. It doesn't feel final. What's your take on that?
No, it doesn't feel final at all. It suggests things keep going. Midnight Rhapsody and improvisation feel like a gentle winding down. But that lone piano, it's like the melody lingers, and now it's kind of yours to carry.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an invitation, isn't it? To take that feeling with you, let it keep playing in your own head.
Now, something really different about this project is this narrative layer running alongside the music. How does having that text change how you listen?
This is where it really stands out, I think, from your typical instrumental album. Pairing each of the 10 tracks with his own bit of prose,
Okay.
it just creates a much richer way in.
Right.
You're not just hearing it, you're sort of reading along, experiencing a story unfold. It changes the whole act of listening.
The text says the listener becomes a reader, a dreamer, a participant.
Exactly. And the music gets extra layers of meaning. From the words, the metaphors, the images, and the writing, it deepens the connection.
And the movement titles, Prelude, Cadence, The Afternoon Waltz, they feel like chapter headings, marking time and emotion.
Yeah, precisely. They guide you through the day, reinforce that narrative flow. And, it might also make classical and jazz feel a bit more welcoming for some listeners. It gives them a sort of map.
That's a good point.
And that last one, improvisation, being called the unwritten final page. That's quite something.
It really is. It's like saying, okay, now it's your turn. You finish the story.
Sure.
It makes the whole thing feel less fixed, more like a starting point for your own thoughts.
A catalyst.
Now, inside this narrative, there's this story about a woman named 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 in a section called The Color of Her Silence. Who is she, and how does she fit into all this?
𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧. Yes, she's described as a woman in a remote village in Georgia, apparently quite reserved, felt a bit unseen, and her secret passion was playing this old frost-covered piano in an abandoned observatory at dawn. Her music is called her shadows, the things she couldn't say out loud. There's a real sense of deep solitude there, right?
Definitely. But also something incredibly personal and deep about her art.
For sure. So the story goes, one evening she uploads a recording, sort of on a whim, and gets a message back from TATANKA.
Wow.
Which leads her to discover this group, Orchestra Americana. And they're not your standard orchestra. The text calls them matriarchal global, focused on inclusion improvisation.
Matriarchal global. Interesting.
Yeah. And they invite her to share her music, not by writing it down perfectly, but just expressing her heart music. That must have been huge for her.
Like a validation, finding her people almost.
Absolutely. Yeah. So she travels all the way to Tierra del Fuego to work with them. And her first piece, this deeply personal piano thing called Winter in the Throat, actually gets woven into the second movement of Rhapsody in blue-green.
No way. So her private music became part of this bigger work?
Exactly. And the point isn't that she became famous. The story stresses it's about finding resonance.
Resonance.
Yeah. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 found a language for what had always lived inside her. Quiet power. Her journey highlights how Rhapsody in blue-green and Orchestra Americana act as these listening spaces.
Listening spaces for voices that maybe don't usually get heard.
Precisely. For the overlooked, the marginalized, it's about giving those quiet narratives a platform, validating them.
That's a really beautiful concept. Music creating space for the unheard. So the takeaway is, our silence has shape, and in the right conditions, it can be transformed into song.
That's the line. Yeah. It's a potent reminder, isn't it?
Right.
About the expressive potential hidden away in all of us.
So pulling it all together, Rhapsody in Blue-Green is, wow, it's way more than an album. It's this complex weaving of music, the pulse of nature, the city beat, and these really personal stories. It shows harmony where you might expect conflict, digs into the emotional depth of music without words, and really shines a light on what happens when you create spaces for unheard voices.
Yeah, it's an invitation to listen differently, maybe more deeply to the music, sure, but also to the world around us, and maybe even the stories inside ourselves.
It's a very immersive, emotionally rich experience, makes you rethink the places you live in and the stories you carry.
Definitely.
This deep dive into Rhapsody in Blue-Green, It really leaves you with a lot to chew on. And thinking about ravazzi's story, it kind of brings up a compelling question for you, the listener. What music might be hiding in your own silence?
Mm.
What stories, what creative sparks might just be waiting for the right kind of listening space to actually come out?
It's a powerful thought to leave things on.
Yeah. We really recommend checking out the album and reading the narrative on the Tatanka website. There's definitely more richness there for you to explore.